Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hybrid in-person and virtual meeting for the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Central Frontenac. Members of the public may join in person or virtually. For those of you who may be new to the Committee of Adjustment, my name is Bill Everett, and I am the chair of the committee. We also have with us tonight Francis Smith. From my left, Duncan McGregor, Philip Smith, Nikki Gowdy. From my right, Lynn Clagus and Susan Irwin. For staff, we have Chris Nelson, our Community Service Coordinator, who will be assisting us as the meeting host. And we are also joined by planning staff, Abby McKinnon and Jenny Capusta. The format of the meeting will follow the agenda posted online. Staff have prepared a presentation to follow along with during the meeting. This will be shown on screen. For each application with a public hearing, we will follow this format. I, as the chair, will introduce the file so that everyone knows where we are on the agenda. The planner will provide an overview of the application. We will then ask are there any comments from the applicant or their agent? Committee members may then ask staff and the applicant or their agents questions, if any. The public will then have the opportunity to ask questions or provide comments. I encourage you to ask any questions you may have. Lost my place, I can't see it. There we go. The committee will then deliberate and vote on the application. Voting will take place with members of the committee raising their hands or verbal confirmation if attending online. I will then state whether the vote was carried. All members of the public will have an opportunity to provide comments on the new applications. Please note that as of January 1st, 2023, only persons specified in the Act are permitted to appeal consent and minor variance applications. Township staff will be in touch following the meeting and will forward a copy of the decision within 15 days to the applicant and anyone who has requested to be notified. Should you have any questions after the meeting, we encourage you to reach out to staff. The applicant, the minister, or any prescribed public body with an interest in the matter may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the decision or notice date by submitting an appeal through the e-file portal. Details about the e-file system are provided in the notice of decision. I will now ask Chris Nelson to provide an overview of how members attending virtually can participate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once the meeting is open to the public, the chair will ask if anyone has any questions or comments. Members of the public attending virtually will be asked to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen. This alerts us that you would like to speak. Staff will then notify the chair that someone would like to speak and then proceed to unmute your microphone. You will receive a notification that your microphone has been unmuted. Please wait a second after unmuting your microphone before speaking. If you're calling in by phone, please dial *9 when you would like to raise your hand during the meeting. You will hear a prompt on the phone that you have raised your hand, and you will be notified when your microphone has been unmuted. This afternoon, it looks as though we have 4 members of the public participating with us online and 4 in person.
In the likely account that we have connection issues and the meeting cannot be restored within 15 minutes, the meeting will be postponed and staff will be in touch with each applicant. A notice will also be posted on the township social media letting you know. Moved by Lynn Clagus, seconded by Duncan McGregor, that the agenda of the February 11th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting be adopted as presented. Are there any amendments?
Yes, there are. I would amending the agenda to move item Number 7 for Knutson first, to be discussed prior to the consent application on tonight's agenda.
Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Moved by Duncan McGregor. Oh, my apologies. All those in favor of the agenda? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Duncan McGregor, seconded by Lynn Clagus, that the meetings of the January 28th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting be adopted as presented. Are there any amendments?
No, there is not.
All those in favor?
Oh. My apologies. So we'll do Susan.
All those in,
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
yes.
The minutes do note that Duncan was present, so you might want to amend the minutes as well.
As amended then.
All those in favor? Are there any deferred items?
No, there is not.
Okay, moving to item 7, applications for minor variance. APPN 2024-0039 Knudsen. Moved by Francis Smith, seconded by Philip Smith, that minor variance application APPN, my apologies again. Ms. Capuste, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for permission to expand, we'll say an existing dwelling. This is a dwelling that was destroyed by fire, or at least partially, to the point it needs to be rebuilt. In the process of rebuilding, the applicants would like to slightly enlarge the dwelling as well as install a new class 4 septic system. None of the original property did not meet the setbacks, and the rebuild and the septic will not either. So here on the screen, you can see the property is highlighted in red, so it's out on a little peninsula in Charbit Lake, just north of Brewer Road on Kippawa Lane. So the original property or dwelling was a 2-story dwelling, 114 square meters in area with a 61 square meter attached uncovered deck. The enlarged rebuilt structure will also be a 2-story structure, have a footprint of 136 square meters with a 77.5 square meter attached deck. So a little bit larger. The original cottage was, as many are, a cottage that had a bit here and a bit there and a bit over there. And to make it a little bit more functional, they have squared off and adjusted some of the things, which resulted in slightly larger deck and a slightly larger dwelling. Here on the next slide, you can see this is from the insurance company. This is what was put in as the existing. So there also is there's a boathouse and a garage on the property with the existing dwelling here, right close to the water. So the enlargement will slightly reduce the water body setback about 1.5 meters on the one side of the dwelling here. And that's more because of the configuration of the shoreline and the property and where things are. The overall minimum setback from the water will remain unchanged. So the closest point of the dwelling will still be the same distance as it is today. But just again, on the peninsula, there really wasn't a way to go away from the water without also going towards the water in another direction. As I noted, here we'll show on the next one. So this is the proposal for the rebuild. So you can see the cottage is in approximately the same location. As I noted, the minimum setback of 3.5 meters to Charbit Lake will remain unchanged. as I said, the one on the western side will reduce by about 1.5 meters just to accommodate the enlargement. The current septic tank is located under the where the existing or the proposed porch is. So the septic tank is proposed to be moved back here outside the 15 meter sort of guideline that is under the building code. And the leaching bed will be removed, rehabbed, and reinstalled in approximately the same area as the existing leaching bed, slightly different orientation. But none of those can meet the 30 meters. They don't now, and they won't after this. So this is the permission really to look at the additional square footage that is proposed through the cottage. So this application was circulated to Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority for review and comments. They brought comments back at the end of last year, stating no objections as presented. They did note that on the western half of the lot, there is actually a large wetland area that runs out into the lake. And they noted that to achieve a greater water body setback for either the dwelling or the septic, you then further reduce the setback to the wetland. So as I said, it's kind of a constrained property. There wasn't really a way to significantly improve one setback without also then reducing another one, as well as the existing driveway and development on the property really limited the ability to do much else than what is proposed here. As I noted, a new class 4 septic system will be installed, meeting that same minimum. It's about 23 meters from the high water mark right now, and it'll be about that when it's done, and it will be updated. So that's always a good thing, especially on the west basin of Sharbot Lake, which is a lake trout lake. So any increase in septic performance is always a good thing to help with water quality and protection. There were no public comments received regarding this application, and planning staff are recommending that the committee hear any comments today and approve this application subject to the conditions in the planning report. Thank you.
Please use the raise hand feature if you are online and would like to speak. I'm seeing one. I missed Stock. Hold on. Okay.
Hello, I'm Bethany Stock. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm acting as the agent on behalf of the owner. I don't have any further information for you, but if you do have any questions, I am present to answer.
Anybody got any questions from the committee? Are there any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Thank you.
For the applications for minor variance, APPN 2024, correction, let me start that again. Does the committee have any questions? The application for minor variance APPN 2024-0039 Knudsen, moved by Francis Smith, seconded by Philip Smith, that minor variance application APPN 2024-0039 Knudsen for concession 10, South Part Lot 12, Geographic Township of Olden, 1086 Kippewa Point, Central Frontenac Township, be approved to allow for the enlargement of a dwelling that was destroyed by fire with a footprint of 136 square meters, 1,464 square feet, an attached deck with a footprint of 77.5 square meters, or 834 square feet, and an installation of a new upgraded septic system that are unable to meet the required water body setback of 30 meters. And that effect of the application is to permit a variance from section 5.6.2 and 4.26.5A of the zoning bylaw 2011-52 as amended, to allow for the expansion of the dwelling, deck, and placement of the septic. And further, that the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the application, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, item number 7. Ms. Kapusta, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just wait for this to show up. All right. So these are two applications that I will be discussing at the same time, as one without the other really doesn't make any sense. So these applications combine to form a proposal for an easement or right-of-way for access from Eagle Lake South Shore Lane to the shoreline of Eagle Lake. This is in benefit of an existing developed island property located in Eagle Lake. It's municipally known as 380 Eagle Lake, and does not currently have any mainland parking or water access registered on title. And the property owner would like to ensure that the property can be accessed in the future, regardless of the ownership of either mainland or island properties. So here on the screen, I've kind of described it. The first application, ending in 0033, there'll be pictures to help with this in the next slide, I promise, is running from South Shore, Eagle Lake South Shore Lane over the property owned by Mr. Carlson. And it'll be approximately 80 feet in length and survey and construction in accordance with the private road standards that are in Frontenac County study, as well as the township official plan. So this easement will connect to the next one, which is application 0034. And so that is a right-of-way for driving and parking and boat launching. So that one is approximately 67 meters or 220 feet in length. Again, surveyed and constructed in accordance with the private lane standards that the township has, and to the satisfaction of Public Works. This part is also proposed to have 3 parking spaces, sized in accordance with the township zoning bylaws. So there is provisions for minimum sizing and layout of parking spaces. For water access properties, the minimum requirement in the bylaw is to have 2 parking spaces. They're applying for 3. That is up to them. I imagine it's to be able to have visitors on the island, but again, I'm not sure. And as long as they're meeting the minimum requirements for this, this is what we're looking for. So here on the next slide, I have 2 images. On the right-hand side is an aerial image. You can see this dashed black line is the existing Eagle Lake South Shore Lane. Both of these images were submitted by the applicant with the application. So this white line shows approximately-ish the location proposed for the driveway access. So the 0033 is addressing this portion here that's in proximity, and then you cross the property line onto the property that's owned by Mr. McLeod, who also owns the island property. And the proposed parking area approximately is shown in the pink square with the black P. You can continue on down to the shoreline where there is a water access point. So this would allow the boat to be taken in on a trailer, dropped off into the lake, and then the trailer and the truck can return and park in the parking area. On the other side is a same sort of view, but it's shown on the survey of the properties, just confirming some of the lengths. So their proposals for about a 14-foot wide gravel surface. The total length of it's about 250 feet. And again, the 3-car three-car parking area, not garage. There's no structures proposed through this, I promise. The parking area is shown on there as well. This image does show perhaps a dock of some sort, but there aren't any additional docks proposed through this, through either of these applications. You can also see on the air photo on this property, there is an existing dwelling and accessory sheds in the rear of the property. So This application was circulated initially for delegated authority approval due to a number of public comments received. It was a decision of planning staff to bring this to the committee for a decision to make sure that everybody can have their voices heard and everything properly considered before any decision is made. So the public comments, there was a number from various different people. I've summarized them here on the screen kind of by theme. This is not absolutely an all-encompassing. All the details and the correspondence is available in the agenda, so I just try and do it on a theme. One of the big ones was the number of deeded accesses required. So there was a perception, it appears that owning the mainland property as well as the island property guarantees deeded access. However, that's not correct because that doesn't work unless you own both properties. If you own a mainland and an island and you want to let yourself use it, that's absolutely fine. What this proposal is doing will register on title a right of way over the mainland property in favor of the island property. And that way, no matter who owns the island property and or the mainland property, the access is still there. It's similar to the access provided over South Shore Lane or any of the large number of private roads in the township. Another one was that the owner of this mainland property is also part of a corporation that owns a number of docks accessing Eagle Lake near the public boat launch. Again, the right to park your boat there is dependent on participation in that corporation. I don't know if there's money involved or contracts or how that works. However, neither that nor the ownership of the mainland property is an actual deeded access. It has to be registered on title, it has to be in perpetuity, and it has to be irrespective of ownership. And that's a requirement in the township zoning bylaw. And this requirement has been in place since the bylaw was put into place in 2011. It says that no building or structure shall be erected unless there's illegal access. And for water access and island properties, the requirement is to have deeded parking on the mainland, and it says registered on title in perpetuity. You're able to use a public boat launch, so if this didn't have water access, they could continue to use the public boat launch at Eagle Lake, as long as there was parking on the mainland somewhere. If the property is already developed, you do have the right to renovate, rehab, and rebuild an existing structure. However, a building permit cannot be issued for any new structure under the bylaw without obtaining this parking access, even if it's an existing developed lot. So if you had a cottage and you want to put up a garage and accessory building, that's a new thing. And that helps bring into compliance any properties that may not have that in place right now and ensures access in the future. So the next one is impact on natural features. So Eagle Lake is an at-capacity lake trout lake, but there's no new development proposed through this. As I said, this is guaranteeing access for parking and water access on the mainland. The property that will benefit from this already has development. The property this is located on already has development. So there's no increase in development potential with regards to that. Regardless, it is a waterfront property and there are wetlands, water bodies, water courses, things in the area. So this application, actually both these applications were circulated to Rideau Valley Conservation Authority for review. They have no objections to the applications as proposed. They did note that they do regulate all site alteration or development within 15 meters of water body, water course, wetlands on any of the subject properties or anywhere that this access would travel. The Conservation Authority has provincial mandate to review applications with regards to natural hazards, so slope concerns. One of the issues raised also involved topography. As I'm sure anyone who's been out to Eagle Lake knows, the topography is fairly up and down along the shore, as it is in a lot of places. There are some slopes on the property where this right-of-way will travel, but based on review from the Conservation Authority, they are not steep enough to be considered a natural hazard concern. And as such, they have no concerns with regard to this proposal. As I said, if anything is proposed within 15 meters of any water courses or anything on the property, a permit is required from the Conservation Authority, and property owners would have to work with them to install it if there's culverts or anything like that, the same way that they always would. Another concern was regarding future property development. So as I noted, these applications are only for the creation of easement for parking and water access, and only will benefit the specific island lot that is named as the benefiting parcel in these applications. It does not provide access for any other water access or island properties or anybody who's not named on title of the properties that benefit or the property that benefits from this. The easement in the parking area remain part of the mainland property. They're not considered a separate lot. They're not able to be sold separately from the mainland one. It's all part of that same property. It's just there's a right of access to travel over the identified portions to park the vehicles and access the shoreline of the lake. There's no rezoning or change of designation or development or of any sort proposed for the mainland property through these applications. If the property owner chooses to do that or apply for something or do something in the future, those applications will be evaluated at that time based on whatever proposal is brought forward. Lastly, as I noted on the one picture, it did look like there was potentially going to be a dock at the water access point. The township bylaw only permits one dock to be installed per property. Anything in excess of that, if they already exist, would be a legal non-complying situation, but no new docks in excess of the permitted one would be allowed on the property. And I said, while the picture may show something, there was no docks proposed through this, and no request for a variance to the bylaw for any additional docks on the property. We're looking at letting them have access to the lake where they park their boat is something that is beyond the scope of this application. So I'm sure there'll be more questions, but that's kind of just sort of a summary of all the concerns received and how planning staff looked at those and what considerations we had with regards to in reviewing this application. So here on the next page, there's no comments from Septic Approval Authority. As I noted, this is just a right-of-way for parking and access. There's no new development proposed on either mainland or island property. The path of the proposed right-of-way is not in proximity to any existing sewage disposal systems. So there were no comments required regarding any septic suitability of these properties. As I said, Corrido Valley Conservation Authority did review this application. They provided comments in October of last year and have no objections to either application as proposed. They did not identify any natural hazard concerns on the property, which involved steep slopes, flooding, marine clays, organic soils, anything that could cause potential problems in the future, even for the construction of something as I won't say as simple as a roadway, but something like a roadway as opposed to even like a building. And again, as I noted, any development or site alteration with 15 meters of any water body, water course, wetland identified on the properties will need written permission from the Conservation Authority. As a result of all comments received and the review conducted by planning staff, we are recommending that the committee approve both of these applications, subject to the conditions in the planning report, and also subject to any public comments received tonight, provided that all concerns can be satisfactorily addressed. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, are there any comments from the applicant or his agent?
Please use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. I'm seeing one, Mr. McLeod. You can unmute your mic.
Hi, excuse me. Yes, the only observation that I would make is the intention was to actually put a second dock there. Clearly, we could remove the existing dock and put one there instead. That appears to be an oversight in the application. It was mentioned in some comments somewhere, but I guess it got missed in the conversion to an application. Other than that, we've done everything we thought we needed to do.
Sorry, does that mean there's still only going to be one dock there?
Ideally, we'd have two, because presumably the plan down the road would be to sell the property, and then the new property owners are going to want a dock on their land to be able to use. So we would actually like to have a dock at the end. We don't want to launch boats there. We'd launch from the public dock. We're not trying to put a new launch in. And that's why we had a dock drawn in the diagram. And it would be a dock for that easement. And then, because we want to be able to put our boat there, and then presumably the new owners of the property would also want to have a dock of their own where the existing one is.
So any, as Jenny mentioned, any secondary dock would require a minor variance application in order to permit that, as our zoning
Okay.
bylaw only permits one.
So that would be a second application?
It would be a separate application, yes.
Okay. So that's apart from this. We could still approve the easement, and then we wouldn't build the road unless we could get the variance, obviously, but.
That would be up to you.
Right.
The minor variance is a separate application from what we're discussing today. And it would be something that would be applied for and circulated for public notification and committee of adjustment decision, the same as the application
Okay.
that we are hearing today.
All right, fair enough.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Mr. McGregor.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the benefiting property is an island that
Yes, that's
has
correct.
that has a structure on it already.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It has existing development.
So this would bring this property into compliance as well.
That's correct, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Smith.
My question is around the private road standards and just trying to understand, this is essentially being proposed as a driveway, but yet we're making them build the driveway to the private road standards, which is probably more significant than the lane taking to get to the property.
Yes, that's an interesting dilemma. That is something we are actually working on at the county to adjust that. Currently, those are the only standards. Planning staff are recommending adding in or to the satisfaction of the Township Public Works. The intent is to ensure that there's an emergency services access, because if this becomes the deeded access for the property, this is also where emergency services vehicles would access the water to potentially access the island if for some reason the public boat launch wasn't available or there was not other accesses to the lake. There are to Eagle Lake, so it's less of a concern. You're correct, it is a driveway. However, those are the standards that we have in place. So that is what the recommendation is.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask one more question. So if this is for one property, is there any way to ensure that this is not a right of way that's now going to service 12, 20 water access properties?
Yes, it has to be registered on title. This consent application approves the creation of the right-of-way and identifies the benefiting property only as that island property. So you're approving the creation of this right-of-way in favor of that island property. If another island wanted to use it, they need another consent application. So this is the right-of-way creation as well as identifying the benefiting lot.
Are there any other questions? From the public, do we have anybody who wishes to speak? Please come forward, turn on the microphone, and state your name for the record.
Just click the microphone there, it'll go green. The button, yeah,
That one?
perfect.
Mine? Okay. And I'm on camera too, perhaps? Great. So my name is Doug Ritter. I represent 6 families who are residents of South Shore Lane on Eagle Lake. 3 are immediate neighbors to this lot, and the others, we are permanent residents on the road, a private road. Thank you for considering all our concerns. expressed in the letter I wrote on November the 21st, which is on page 54 if you want to look at it again, and providing a very detailed report for us. We still have two major concerns. The location of the proposed road starts exactly by a stream and a vernal swamp. It's at the exact site where that road maintenance has been a problem for us, often difficult and often problems, especially in springtime. The third water access, and I'll say third, water access proposed road and new dock on the property involves significant deforestation and carving into a hillside to avoid the stream that is right beside the new road. RBCA has approved it. They didn't make a site visit. Dan Nguyen at RBCA consulted his maps. They do not show the stream. They do not show the vernal swamp. They don't show the hillside that will be carved out. So they don't see the steep slopes. It's in a ravine. And they just don't know what's there because they didn't actually go there. Did the township make a detailed site visit to 1059 South Shore Road? Did the township notice the docks sketched on the map? That's been commented on already. At the shoreline of the new third proposed road, there is a 16 to 18-foot trailer parked by the water and two sheds that have been present for decades. The access road and park structures are visible on the aerial map on page 59, 60, and 61. If you can put that map up, you can actually see these structures.
You also sent a picture, did you not?
I beg your pardon? Yes,
A
there
picture
are
that showed
pictures.
those.
So there are pictures of structures on the property. You can see when it's deforested, and you can actually see the trailer that's been parked there. You can see the sheds, and there is a road leading to them already from this property. The question is, why are 3 roads necessary to access waterfront, an existing dock, a new dock, and create more parking, of which there's plenty of parking on that property? Is it reasonable to ask RBCA and the township to revisit and make an in-person inspection to assess this impact? Our concern is about Eagle Lake. Immediate neighbors are concerned that the property will become a multi-user water access property. Would our concerns to this proposal warrant a detailed site visit by RBCA and the township? Perhaps, can I point something out here?
Yep, go ahead. I was just trying to find the map so you could show what we were trying to talk about.
This is a good map. Right there, there's a sheds. The proposed road goes right beside them. It goes through one of the sheds. There is a road from the township road that goes in here, and it goes to the water, to the dock that exists in front, right there, that exists for that property. There is a second road that runs right down here to there. That's how they got the trailer there. So now we have a road here, a road here, and a road down here. Why do we need 2 roads to the same spot? Thank you. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Ms. Kapusta, have you got something to say?
I will try and address the questions. With regards to structures, trailers, sheds, things, if they are located in the proposed right-of-way, they would need to be removed and or relocated. You can't have any structures in a right-of-way that would inhibit access the same way you can't put a gate up on a private road unless everybody has a key to it, that type of thing. You can't limit access. Oftentimes in these situations, there are older sheds or structures and things get knocked down, moved, relocated as part of these applications. But yes, that wouldn't be able to be there. As for the docks, again, This application doesn't permit any additional docks, as we discussed. If another one is desired, that is a separate application. This is just the easement for the right-of-way over the property. Currently, as I said, there's one permitted. Site visits, township staff, Abby and myself actually have been out to the site to look at the property. So I do appreciate your concerns and the location with the topography. That is where that type of thing we defer to Conservation Authority, as they are the provincial body that looks at natural hazards and, as I said, wetlands and water bodies. So if there is a stream there and there are concerns with proximity, if it's within 15 meters, they would need a permit from conservation before they could do any site alteration, and that includes cutting into a hill or destabilizing things like that. And that is their permit requirement and obligation. So with regards to the natural features, that is their purview under their provincial guidance. So if they don't have objections, then I defer to their authority as the permitting for that. As to why here, that you would have to ask the applicant. I just review what's proposed. I don't necessarily say why here versus over there. We look at what's proposed and review it on those bases. There's nothing in the township bylaw that limits if you'd like to have a little interior network of roads on your own property. There's nothing that limits that. So, I mean, they do have a number of roads down to the water. They are permitted to do that. I think that's kind of addressing what you had. I mean, I'm sure there's questions or comments to that. I'm just trying to go back through things.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Mr. McLeod has his hand up. Okay, you can unmute your mic.
Hi. Yeah, so the property itself does have its main driveway does lead down past the existing cottage to the road. The other trailer that's down there, that was predated before we bought it. That's not actually a road that goes down there. That's actually the hydro right of way. So there's no trees in there, but it's really the hydro right of way, and they managed to drag down through there. The point of putting the road where we want it is because when you sell the property to somebody else, if we ended up using the current driveway and the hydro right of way, you'd be driving by their cottage every time you arrived. And that seems totally unreasonable. It's a 4.5 acre lot. We're looking at using 3/4 of an acre on that side that's, due to the topography of the place, virtually inaccessible from the rest of the property and not that useful. So this is out of the way and not a problem for whoever owns the property down the road. Second thing is the RVCA had a site visit twice. Michael Yee of the RCVA came out and did a consultation with us initially. Then we marked where we wanted to put the road, and he came out and revisited again and looked at it. So they have had 2 site visits to make their determination that they had no issues with it. We've already planned the trailer that's down there and the sheds and stuff that are down by where our right of way is. We already had plans to remove those with the road being built. And I think that's it.
Ms. Smith?
My question was going to be, has the Conservation Authority actually been on the land? And apparently they have. I was going to suggest that if they haven't, that we defer the application until they can come and have another look at it. But I guess if they've been there twice, they have seen what you have mentioned. So I guess we have to go with their recommendation.
Are there any more comments? Your microphone, please.
My comment was when I spoke to RVCA.
Microphone, please.
When I spoke to RVCA, they indicated they did a map visit, not a site visit. I spoke to one individual there.
So I will just comment on that. The planner, Dan Noonian from RVCA, he is a relatively new planner to Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. This application has been discussed even prior to my employment with the township. So I know that it has been in the works for quite a long time in the planning stages. So these site visits did occur prior to the application even being submitted.
Hello, I'm Don Ball. I'm a permanent resident a little further down Eagle Lake South Shore Lane. We share in the care of the road. I'm surprised there is a culvert that is from the vernal pond to this stream area that is right at the mouth of where they are placing the driveway. There is no map showing where that culvert is. 9 months, 10 months of the year, there isn't a problem. But for 2 months of the year, it's a huge flooding site. The water will cascade over there. They will have problems. The road already has problems with the culvert in existence. I'm just concerned for our access and being able to share in the use of that lane, not being interfered with by having a new lane coming off of that area right adjacent and at the culvert. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it's certainly not showing on the plans or the photographs. So that's my concern, is that the water will take its course as it does and will affect our road as well as their drive.
Yes, I'm gonna say I can absolutely appreciate that. The creation of this right of way would not be permitted to negatively impact any existing rights of way or significantly alter drainage as compared to what is existing on the site. That's a very standard for all development. If it does, you absolutely would have, I don't want to say legal recourse because that's providing legal advice. I would say, my opinion, a case to look into it further. That becomes more of a civil matter. As I said, in proximity to that water course, our VCA would regulate that area. So if there's culverts in that proximity, they did state that 15 meters from any water course or water body, they do regulate. So if that distance is within that, they would need to obtain a permit from the Conservation Authority and work with them before they could do any works for this driveway. So that's going to be something, I guess, the Conservation Authority, you'll have to make sure that they take that into account. That's a little outside of the scope of these applications, but it comes more to the construction side, and you definitely are not able to negatively impact existing property owners with the creation of new rights of way.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson.
Yes, thanks. Mr. McLeod, you can unmute your mic.
Yeah. So we have the Conservation Authority permit already. On the hand-drawn one map that shows the road on the existing concession map, there's an orange, not orange, I'm colorblind, so I can't tell what color I did it in, but there's like a purple line that shows where the road is. Our driveway is past where the culvert is, and we're at a level, yeah, that's it. And we're past where the culvert is, and we are elevated above it. So putting our road in should have no impact whatsoever on whether the main road gets flooded or not. If the main road's flooded, then clearly ours would be too. The Conservation Authority has already approved this. They've also given us for during construction, they have mitigation, like they have mitigation things for during the construction to make sure we don't dump anything accidentally into the stream to block it or anything. So there should be no impact on the stream whatsoever.
Thank you, sir. Are there any more comments, questions from the committee? Okay, in the application for consent, APPN 2024-0033 McLeod/Carlson and APPN 2024-0034 McLeod. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Susan Irwin. The consent application 2024-0033 and APPN 2024-0034 McLeod Carlson for concession to part lots 25 and 26, Geographic Township of Hinchinbrook, South Shore Lane, be approved for the creation of 91.3 meters or 300 feet of right-of-way for mainline access to water access only property, municipally known as 380 Eagle Lake, PIN 361580325. And that these applications be approved subject to the conditions noted in the planning report And further, that the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed. And that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of office of official issued within a period of 2 years after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any other planning business?
No, there is not.
Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Francis Smith, that this meeting be adjourned until February 25th, 2025, virtually and in person at Soldiers Memorial Hall, 1107 Garrett Street, Sharbot Lake, or at the call of the chair. Adjourned at 5:51. All those in favor? I knew that.